Welcome to this episode of Reset Revolution. My name is Sara Kimura and I am a high school student currently studying in Paris. So today I have invited Sacha Olivier Clarke, and we will be recapping 2020 in terms of our consumption behaviour as a society and its positive or negative effects on the environment. So Sacha, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Could you maybe start off by introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sacha. I'm British and South African. I'm really interested about the environment, and I've been vegan for almost 3 years.
Before we begin this interview, I would like to mention that this episode will be slightly different from our other ones, as it will be mostly us reporting and discussing the events that have been happening in 2020. It'll be, quite different from a usual interview. However, we will also talk about specific solutions we can work on as a society, so please stay tuned till the end. So, I think many people will agree with me about this, but then don't you think that COVID is probably like a really great factor that has changed all of our behaviors in 2020?
Yeah, exactly. Like the types of products in demand are completely different this year. In some cases, I feel like we've actually gone backwards in terms of our eco-friendliness because of all these masks and things. But there's also some positive news that's come from the COVID pandemic, such as temporary improvements in air quality. This has been caused by reduced number of vehicles on roads during lockdowns, and there may be even longer term benefits caused by changing travel patterns with more people working from home. Another really big one is lower greenhouse gas emissions. There has been an abrupt 8.8% decrease in global CO2 emissions in the first half of 2020 compared to the same period in 2019.
Wow.
And that drop is bigger than previous economic crashes and World War II. There's also the water quality and water pollution because of the lower economic activity during lockdown. This has led to lower emissions to water from industries, and reduced tourism has also led to lower emissions to water at European coasts. There has also been some reports of wild animals increasing in numbers and turning up in places that they haven't been at in a very long time.
That's really nice to hear, because all the headlines of 2020 have all been like COVID pandemic, like this and that, all the numbers and all that. But then it's really nice to hear that, parts of the environment is like reviving in a way. Well, we do have positive aspects, but then at the same time, I feel like we do have to face the negative as well. For example, as many of you would guess, the consumption of personal protective equipment, such as surgical masks, gloves, protective equipment, body bags, the consumption of these products have risen massively. And these products, all are made from plastic, and usually these products are unrecyclable as they contain a special type of plastic that cannot be recycled in conventional recycling facilities. And also another reason is that these products may be contaminated and could potentially lead to indirect infection and viral transmission if they enter the recycle system. These face masks, they can become floating marine debris, as many people don't care enough to put these in proper bin bags. Apparently there are cities in America where gloves, like plastic gloves and surgical masks, floating in ponds, like just down the street or something. And it's rather it's really terrible to see. Sacha, did you see that post on Instagram or something that went around a while ago, where people were asking others to cut the loop of the face masks?
Yeah, I did see something about that. I definitely, every time I've used surgical mask, I make sure I need to cut both loops off. That's really important because it can get wrapped around turtles' necks and things. And it really, these masks and stuff, they can leak chemicals as well, like plastic in general can leak microplastics into the ocean, and it does destroy corals and ecosystems and marine life, especially with these mask strings being wrapped around turtles' necks and things like that. So if you do have one, make sure you cut the strings off. That's really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Also, rivers and mountainous areas may become dumping grounds if this level of consumption carries on. But then public safety is indeed a priority, and especially medical workers, they need to make sure that they're using the right equipment that can protect them from the COVID. However, we do have to consider the environment so that we can stay sustainable in the long run too. And in terms of statistics, I'd like to tell you that the pandemic has resulted in a monthly global consumption and waste of 129 billion face masks and 65 billion gloves. Isn't that just crazy? Like,
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, like it is understandable why this level of consumption may have to lead in the creation of more dumping sites. Which can end up not which can, like which will end up destroying a part of the ecosystem. And
yeah, exactly, that's the thing. Like obviously surgical masks are really, well, masks in general are really important, but if we can try and use reusable ones. I know I need to be better about using reusable ones as well. But there aren't enough masks to go around, so I think yeah, it's all about kind of having sustainable options for everything.
Exactly. Like if you aren't like a medical worker and then you're, I mean, rather confident with your immune system, if you know how to keep safe, like if you keep washing your hands and all that, like I feel like it's unnecessary to use single-use plastic masks. If it's an option for you, I really recommend you to use a reusable mask instead. Another negative announcement or information, in beginning of the year 2020, the UN announced that the pandemic could increase the total number of undernourished people in the world by between 83 and 132 million in 2020. Well, basically this did become a reality, and now America's largest hunger relief organization, Feeding America, estimates a record deficit of 8 billion meals between now and June 2021. So this is just talking about America. And the reason to this rapid increase in poverty and hunger issues is mostly due to mass unemployment as a result of the economic crisis. I don't think people realize that this is an issue that is happening in our neighborhoods, but then that is also why we should combat this as a society, as global citizens. So, I mean, what can we do? And I mean, I feel like we would like to make this kind of the main part of this interview, but then we would like to introduce you how we've learned to consume in a responsible way. So Sacha, would you like to maybe start off?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, like as I mentioned earlier, I've been vegan for almost 3 years. So I actually heard of this thing called Veganuary, which is basically where you go vegan for a month in January. Veganuary. And yeah, so I thought I would just try it out, no pressure, not like trying to make too much of a change at once. So yeah, I was just kind of quite easygoing with myself. I just tried it for a month and started doing a lot of research about it and got really interested in it. So actually, one of the main reasons why I went vegan in the first place was because of environmentally, and especially I think after a few months of going vegan, I became way more environmentally conscious and aware of all my decisions, and I started buying more reusable things and more sustainable things, and even now I'm a lot more conscious of that. And so yeah, what are some of the ways you've been more environmentally conscious, Sarah?
Yeah, no, I am vegan currently, and I feel much more responsible about the choices I make.
So I actually found some really interesting statistics about if everyone in the world went vegan, what would happen. If everyone ditched beef in particular and went vegan, land use would drop 75%. The UN says that farm livestock accounts for 14.5% of all human-made greenhouse gases. Mm-hmm. So to put that into perspective, this is roughly the same as the exhaust emissions of every car, train, ship, and aircraft on the planet. Another example is that eating 1 kilogram of beef or lamb results in more greenhouse gas emissions than a flight from London to New York.
Wow.
So animal agriculture is a really, really, really big part about kind of greenhouse gas emissions and global warming in general. We've been vegan for a little while now, and although we've personally really enjoy it and find it very easy and fun, there's a lot of options, especially like I was explaining earlier, with more things being in demand. Because I think there are even more options now compared to when I started being vegan, which is really impressive.
So like a statistics that I found was that it takes about 30 pounds of grain to produce a single pound of meat, and all that grain would go a long way towards feeding the hundreds of millions of people who don't have enough to eat.
You don't have to go vegan now necessarily, or make these kind of big changes in your life. Even just cutting meat or beef in particular by once a week, and then eventually bring it up to 2 times a week or 3 times a week. I think that's it's really important, mainly just about being environmentally conscious at the moment, especially with the pandemic and everything. But yeah, so one thing about particularly COVID this year is that actually during the pandemic, the vegan diet has become more attractive to consumers. And for example, in the UK, 25% of millennials are attracted to a vegan diet, which is really good. And actually, at the moment, right now, there are 500,000 vegans in the UK. A lot of people think of veganism as like a radical or fringe diet, and at the moment, it's moving into more of like a mainstream lifestyle. And I think that's really important, because the more it's kind of in the mainstream, the more companies and stuff are going to want to put vegan products out there.
Like, I used to think that the vegan diet is really strict, it's something that's impossible to do, all that, but then in reality, like for example, like pesto pasta, that's vegan, and not many people realize that.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you put I don't know, like Parmesan cheese on top. Like, you can find vegan cheese, it's delicious. Like, honestly, like what really keeps me going on is that I don't have to contribute to mass amounts of carbon emissions compared to before, like land use, water use. I feel like we can't just continue to consume just because it's convenient for us. Like, it's also really important to kind of consider our choices as global citizens. Like, we have to remember the fact that if you're in a situation that you can make a choice, like if you were from a family who suffers from poverty, maybe it isn't a choice for you to go vegan. Like, maybe you just have to take what you are given. And I believe that's why those with options should be considerate of their choices and consider the environment, consider the people, consider animals, everything.
It's really interesting because all the food and the soya and all the grains and things like that we're using to feed livestock could be used to feed people in third world countries, and hunger would be way less of an issue. Well, I mean, more than that, if everyone went vegan, which I know is right now unattainable, but yeah, the goal is to at least make people more conscious of these things. So here's another statistic to kind of put things into perspective. This is in terms of water. So it takes less water to produce a year's food for a vegan than to produce a month's food for a meat eater. But yeah, so in terms of kind of meat consumption, Christmas is obviously a really big time for kind of seeing family and friends and obviously having food. And there's a lot of turkey that people tend to eat at Christmas. I ate nut roast this year. It was really good. I did some research recently, and I was shocked. I never realized that it was this much of an issue environmentally. Environmentalists call Christmas the world's greatest annual disaster. And this is because of the mountains of waste. For example, there is enough unrecyclable wrapping paper to go around the equator 9 times. So you can use reusable wrapping paper, or don't use any paper at all. Put it in a reusable bag or something. But that's not quite as bad as the 1 billion Christmas cards ending up in the bin every year. Send e-cards. You don't need paper ones. Just send e-cards.
Why do we have emails? Why do we have DMs and all that?
So also Christmas. No, I haven't really thought about this one, but Christmas jumpers are actually one of the worst examples of fast fashion, because people actually in the UK, 12 million jumpers were sold in the UK alone this year, and people buy them but only wear them for one day, and they're actually made up of 95% plastic.
Yeah, no, people usually only wear Christmas jumpers for like the Christmas day, Christmas evening, or maybe like only that week, but literally just buying one jumper for that one occasion in year. And then obviously like our tastes and preferences change, like our body sizes change. So I've always thought, like, I've always felt something in me when I see people with Christmas jumpers. This dilemma in a way.
But that's actually not the worst thing about Christmas, in terms of the environment. So there's obviously always been a controversial debate between having a real or fake Christmas tree. Personally, I prefer to have a real Christmas tree. And that actually is more environmentally conscious, believe it or not, because the truth is one fake Christmas tree has the same CO2 emissions as 10 real Christmas trees. So in order to actually mitigate the damage of having a fake Christmas tree, you would have to keep it for at least 10 years.
Oh, I never knew that. Oh,
yeah. So there you go. I think also if you do buy a fake one, have it for at least 10 years, or if you buy a real one, make sure you get it. I think you can get them ground up and turn into little chippings, and they can kind of be used as like a fertilizer or something. Not to mention like all the toys and stuff as well, especially for young kids. There's mountains of plastic toys being imported as gifts for children, which is just adding to this plastic issue. And along with COVID, with the masks, we don't need more plastic. So if you can, start giving reusable gifts. So also, obviously, with people, the more food we kind of consume at Christmas, the more waste there is. Yeah, so more people eating turkey obviously adds to the CO2 emissions because of the animal agriculture. There's a huge issue of food waste of 2 million turkeys, 74 million mince pies, and 17.2 Brussels sprouts are thrown away in the UK alone every Christmas. The least we can do is try to be more conscious about like the food we're eating and how much we're consuming, and try to just buy less, and maybe buy also the packaging the food comes in is obviously plastic. So if you can go to farmers markets, try to find more sustainable packaging options and things.
I mean, Christmas did pass, but then like if our viewers can just keep this back of their minds for next year, maybe. Will be really effective, I think. I thought this topic would be really good for Reset Revolution, just because we know that our viewers are privileged people. We all have access to the internet. I think it's our responsibility to be conscious of what we consume and its effects on the environment. And we don't have to strive for perfection. Like, we should start imperfectly, like as long as it's sustainable. Like, if you don't feel confident about just not consuming any dairy or eggs or like meat for a whole month, then start off with one meal per day, or like even once a week. Like, we're at the time of age where we shouldn't criticize each other for being imperfect, because we all know that we have to work on this together.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with what Sarah was saying. I think that was really insightful, especially as our generation, we're the generation who's kind of going to fix climate change, hopefully. And I think, if we can all kind of, again, just even be conscious about it and kind of make more sustainable decisions, not just about what we eat, but also what we consume in general. And if we're around all the time, so if you ever have any questions about like veganism or want to start veganuary but have no idea how, I can let you send me a DM. I think, I'll be tagged in the Instagram post. And if you have any questions, like, we're always here. We also have a vegan club. Do you want to introduce that?
Yes, no, Sacha and I, we are running a vegan club at our school. We call it Vegucate Society, and we basically we sit together at lunchtime, we create posters to raise awareness. We're working on to do events. We make videos to raise awareness about the negative effects of meat consumption.
You don't have to be vegan to join. You can be meat eater, flexitarian, vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, whatever. You can. It's free for everyone, open to everyone.
Yeah. Perfect. So thank you so much, Sacha, for coming. And
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to all the viewers. See you. Bye bye.